We've all heard that our TFR, short for total fertility rate, has hit an all-time low of 0.87. But what does that mean? This means that 100 women would need to have an average of 87 children over their reproductive years. So what would Singapore need to replace itself? A TFR of 2.1. This means 100 women need to have an average of 210 children.
Good evening, I'm Stephen Chia and welcome to a very special forum on Talking Point. Now tonight we're looking at a number 1.24, that's Singapore's total fertility rate in 2015. Don't be fooled, but that's actually me 9 years ago. Same venue, you can see, same outfit, but I like to think a bit more handsome now. So, the point is, 9 years later, we're still discussing the very same issue, except now the fertility rate is even lower at 0.87. So what will it take to reverse this trend? Joining me is my co-host, Dinosaur.
Hello, everyone. At last night's National Day rally, Singapore has announced more financial incentives to encourage couples to have children. Will this work? Well, let's find out. With me in the studio is Madam Rahayu Mazam, who is part of the Marriage and Parenthood Reset Work Group. Kalpana Vigneser, a sociologist, as well as Professor Norman Lee, who studies the psychology of having families and getting married. Should I say million-dollar question or multi-billion-dollar question is, will the new measures make any difference at all? Madam.
Indeed, we are investing quite a bit. Our children are precious, but this shouldn't be seen as a simple equation of just putting in more money so that our TFR improves. It is really a broader reset of our approach towards supporting marriage and parenthood. We all know that decisions on marriage and having children are very personal decisions, and the best that the government can do is to try and take away some of the biggest pain points, practical considerations and concerns that people have in having children so that they don't feel it's so daunting, that it is manageable. There are a couple of things that they have raised as concerns: protect the time with their children, sustain financial support across the growing years, access to affordable childcare options and housing, and these are things that we are looking at. So one thing in particular may not move the needle, but in totality, these efforts are hoped to relieve some of the pressures that people may feel, and hopefully they will look at parenting as something that they would consider.
You mentioned investment. One way of looking at investment is the ROI, which is the returns on investment. So what do you think, Norman? Will it move the needle?
I think it's possible the needle might move a little bit. The current package financially and in terms of support is quite substantial. It marks a huge jump, and especially for people at the margin, at the borderline of whether to have children or not, they may be moved by this. So we might see a little bit of action here.
So what you're saying is, if I was a couple, if I'm newly married, and I'm thinking, I have not eliminated the possibility, let's put it this way. I'm considering, I'm not saying no. So those people who are sort of like sitting on the fence, if you like, the incentives could nudge them towards more no, yes than no. Is that what you're saying?
I think so,
okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back to the numbers in a bit, but Kalpana, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think this whole question of whether, it's going to nudge TFR is a little bit confused in the sense that you don't know whether these policies will, prevent TFR from dropping further. We don't know. We can't tell whether it's going to just buffer and keep it the same. So when we say it's kind of like, it's a big question mark.
Okay, it's almost like looking into the crystal ball.
Exactly.
Right. And Norman, I want to come back to the numbers and the ROI, including the government account top-ups and grants. Parents now get almost $70,000 per child. But let's take a look at this recent article. Financial consultants are saying that the projected cost to raise kids can be between $250,000 and $500,000, and in some cases, significantly higher. Now, clearly, 70K is nowhere near those numbers that we have just heard. But is it really about the money?
I don't think, for people right at the margin, 70,000 might be enough to nudge them, as we just said. But I think for a large majority of people, it's not really about those numbers. It's about an overall gut feeling of whether they're comfortable, whether they really want it or not. And, working it out on paper and coming up with the numbers is not going to really move those people. And that's a lot of people.
Okay. Steve, let's go over to you. What do the couples with you have to say?
Yeah, that's right, Diana, because I have with me here two married couples. I've got Abraham and Jacqueline. They have 2 kids. Yep. And on this side, I have Sean and Elizabeth. They're still one of those who are kind of a bit on the fence about having kids. Yep. Not quite sure yet. So we want to hear their thoughts on this. I'm going to give each couple 3 statements across the program, and they will speak from their own personal experiences. And you will each have 90 seconds to answer. So this is a bit like a debate. Are you ready? This is the first statement. Okay, here we go. Money is not the reason for my childbearing decisions. Abraham, ready? And
Sure.
go.
I think right from the start, we had already painted a picture of what our future would look like. And this is from dating days and being lovey-dovey and romantic. And it always included a family. And so when the time was right, the resources were right, mentally and emotionally and socially, we decided to take that journey into parenthood. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we also come from a privileged situation where we can say that maybe money is only one of the many factors that we considered. I think more than just money alone, we talk about time as well, the support system in place that we are very privileged to have today.
Yeah, well, you finished in good time. Do you have a good support system? Like, is it grandparents, family?
Yeah, grandparents, family, I think godparents as well, our friends. So I think we can count on many people to help us when we need to.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, Sean, Elizabeth, your turn.
Sure. So I think for us, when I think money similarly didn't play into the decision as much. So when we were in our mid-20s, late 20s, we were prioritizing very intentionally our career aspirations. So that meant that actually we were traveling internationally a lot. We were coming home past midnight. So we felt like that was not compatible with having a kid. And then now that we're in our late 30s, I think the question has changed a little bit. So we're thinking more about, do we want the experience of having a child, right? Do we want to commit to the 18 years of child rearing?
Yeah, and I think part of the consideration, some of that is internal to us, right, which is tied to our own hopes, dreams, motivations, aspirations, right? Some of that, frankly, is also externally driven, which is when we talk to our friends, when we look into society, what are the experiences of kids growing up in Singapore today, and what are the experiences of parents raising those kids growing up in Singapore today, right? And I agree with what you said, which is that, in many cases, right, this is a big decision for any couple, right? And money is a very important financial component of that decision, but it's usually not the driver, right? There are obviously exceptions, right? But I think for most Singaporean families that I talk to, actually, it's usually not the driver. And I can understand why it's a big life decision, right? If I were making a big life decision, it's about whether or not that's the life path I want, right? If I were thinking of becoming a pianist as an example, I'm not going to, become a pianist and learn the piano because Yamaha is giving a 20% discount on pianos, right?
Okay, and a good point. So just make sure you talk to the right friends. I can set you up with the right people to help you. Dinah, you've heard from the 2 couples here. What do you guys think?
Well, money is not the main driver. We're hearing it loud and clear. So one driver, for women at least, could be that some women see motherhood and career as a zero-sum game. Right. And they feel that it's not about the money, but it's about losing your professional identity. Kalpana, the recent measures have seen an increase in childcare leave. How does that persuade a career-driven woman to have kids?
Well, I don't think it persuades a career-driven woman to have kids, just that one thing, right? It's part of a larger scheme of things, whether or not that woman feels like in her workplace she's going to be supported, whether it's going to affect her career, what kind of conversations is she having with her bosses about the prospect of, taking some time off to have a child. I don't think it's ever just one thing. And these things are all sort of creating an environment, right? So government measures can make us feel supported and create a little bit of hope because you feel like, okay, now we've got this more long-term sustained support coming through and feel like that, you have that support. But what's happening in the workplace? What's happening in your family? Do you have grandparental support? Do you have a village to help when you need help?
So Madam Rahayu, maybe I can come to you because If I am worried that having a baby is going to be an opportunity cost, that means I may have to sacrifice my career. How does giving me more childcare leave help me? Because that will take me further away from my job. What would you say to someone?
Indeed, I completely agree with Kalpana. There are many dimensions to this issue, right? And when we are all working mothers here, and we absolutely understand what that means. Having childcare leave is one dimension of it, which needs to be put in place. And government is also giving that assurance and support so that employers will also play ball and also help support. But you're right, it is also a function of actually making sure that the employers will allow for this leave to be given. But without having that childcare leave in the first place, creating that sort of protected time or actually giving that government nudge to it, you can't even have that to speak of in the first place. So I think that's one step that the government needs to do. But clearly there are other dimensions of the issues. The childcare leave allows for the parent to confidently make that request and say that this is something that I'm entitled to and I can then take the leave for my child. But you also need to look at the back end, which is why we also need to discuss with employers. We need to have employers have proper HR policies, open conversations about this and write assignments so that this will be a sustainable flexibility that we're allowing for parents to have as part of the package of supporting parents in this journey.
So last night after the measures were announced, I saw very quickly online comments saying that, alamak, now they are going away for longer parental leave. Then I'm going to have more work to do to cover for these parents who go on longer leave. How do we be
so
fair
these
to
are
everyone?
legitimate concerns. I used to be a lawyer in my past life and the work was tough and I had always thought we were a family-friendly law firm. But when the issues came about, when I had colleagues who had to go away for leave, then I realized that it's really tough because I would now have to take the brunt of the work. So that's legitimate considerations, which is why we then need to manage the different stakeholders. And the government has always been doing this in collaboration with employers, with workers, with unions, to try and come up with a middle ground that is workable. So we're not also just talking about caregiving leaves, the childcare leave, but also about flexible work arrangements. We are trying to encourage and nudge a culture where the whole society comes together and appreciate that we all may have different needs. So this means that you may have to have employers focus more on how they want to allocate their manpower, have better manpower policies, and really look at how they can be meaningful in the way they're organizing themselves, using Zoom, using Teams.
There's
These
so
are the
much
things
that can be done
exactly
on this front that we still haven't, I feel like we're still not even scratching the surface of things yet. Because
Let's hear it from the two ladies with you, Steve. What do they think?
That's right. We want to hear from the ladies' point of view for this one. You have 1 minute, Jacqueline and Elizabeth, and this is the statement I have for you. Yeah. I feel penalised or discriminated for the choice I made. Elizabeth, you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. So I think I do feel penalized, maybe socially, culturally. So, at Chinese New Year celebrations, the aunties will say, why you made your husband wait so long to have kids? Or they'll say, since you make less than him, maybe you just stay home and take care of the baby, right? So I feel like the implicit message I'm getting is that the most meaningful way I can contribute to society is to have my husband's children, right? So a bit icky. And I think maybe also on the policy front, right, I feel like there's sort of this societal script where it's like, we all know, right, is you get married, you get a flat, and you have kids, right? And I think policy definitely, it reinforces that script, right? Because definitely the government gives the most support to married couples with children. So then I think on the flip side, then you feel, for the people who have chosen differently, who've chosen a different lifestyle, then you feel maybe a bit penalized.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Jacqueline, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the topic on being penalized at the workplace per se, I think I look from it, there are two key points I will bring out. So I think number one, if we talk about growth at the workplace specifically, I would say I look at growth more from a pace, right? If we choose to have a family, I think we need to be okay as well with the pace of growth. I'm not saying that we don't grow. We grow at a slower pace, perhaps in this season of life. And we focus a bit more on the family first. I think coming back to that is also, I think a lot of women, especially for the months that we are gone to give birth, is more on job stability at the end of the day. Yeah, so I think about growth and stability, I think are two key things that we want to think about.
Yeah, and those are big ones that we do have to look into, and it's not an easy fix. Well, we are going to take off for a short break, but we want to talk about falling birth rates because they are a global problem. And if we can't get more babies, then do we need to look at Plan B? Well, we'll find out after the break.
Welcome back to the show. Now, I want to start this segment by taking a look at this 2021 survey. And from this survey, one thing has popped up. If we take a look at fertility, difficulty conceiving, 15% of respondents said they have issues with conceiving. And that number increases to 23% for those who are trying for a second child. Madam Rahayu, currently there are subsidies, but there are all these restrictions. Let's take a look at the restrictions. Now, there is no announcement yesterday at the National Day rally about assisted conception procedures. Can we expect any announcement soon? And what are you thinking about?
PM did say that this was not the announcement he made was not the whole of the package yet. Indeed, concerns about fertility health, also pregnancy and even maternity services are concerns that are legitimate and have been raised by people we speak to. And these are going to be part of some of the efforts that we are looking at and reviewing. Some of the limitations that are put in place are also medically indicated. And we are looking at how we can review some of these facts. I think the concerns are real, but there are complex issues, and we are speaking to people, we're speaking to patients, as well as to healthcare providers and doctors.
What is the timeline for these new announcements?
Well, we are still working on it. We're still having the conversations. The budget next year will be a good indicator and time frame of where some of these things may be reviewed. And we are indeed trying to see how we can better support couples who are going through fertility journey.
So I wanted to speak particularly on treatment before 40, because a lot of people are delaying marriage. And when you delay marriage, you can't be expected to decide to have a child before 40, and that is where the subsidies will set in if you have your first attempt before 40. Is this something specifically that you will look into?
So this is definitely one area we'll look into, but I think we need to understand also that some of these things are put in place because there are some challenges also. Just because you do it at 40, it might not be that you'll be pregnant, and there are some medical concerns because the data still suggests that any pregnancy beyond that age, there may be some challenges and some difficulties. So we do have to look at it, how we can be providing better support, but perhaps some of the support is also upstream, and how we can actually help support couples in making those decisions, making sure that they are aware of their fertility health and the things that they need to do in preparing for having a child.
Sometimes the data doesn't tell the full story. I know someone who attempted so many times, nearly 10 times.
Wow.
And she got pregnant. But I want to ask you, madam, you have gone through fertility treatment yourself.
Yes.
What kind of support do you wish you had?
So to be fair, I had my fertility treatment about 10 years ago because my son is now 9 years old, and I had treatment at a public healthcare institution. I had a generally pleasant experience, but I would say my feedback to my colleagues was that my experience then was a little bit sterile and cold because it was seen really as a medical treatment, right? What I had hoped that we could work on and improve is really in providing that emotional and counselling support and in appreciating the current cadence of life. Like you said, people are marrying later. There are certain other limitations and considerations that they have, and we want to take that into account. We want to support that better. And indeed, there has been changes from what I understand from my colleagues in the public healthcare institutions. There have been shifts over time, and we are reviewing how we can better support women, especially because they are now trying to conceive at a later age. They are working mothers, they are working women, and these are also things that causes pressure and difficulties in seeking treatment.
Okay.
So these are
Sorry
things
to interrupt, but we need to move on in the interest of time. The Prime Minister has said that at the end of the day, we may not get more babies, but it's worth trying. Norman, if we don't get more babies at the end of the day, what is our plan B?
Well, I guess plan B is to increase immigration, have people come in from the outside, and they can have the children, and also add to the workforce, also rely on technology to do a lot of different things. AI is going to be big. So these are, along the dimensions of different things.
But are they going to have the children? Because fertility is dropping everywhere.
Right. Well, maybe you can pre-screen them for people who intend to have children. But the problem is that there might be some unintended or less desirable consequences as you use these kind of measures. Then you're probably going to decrease the fertility even further of the current population. So, yeah.
Okay, Steve. Let's
Yeah.
cross over to you to see what the couple.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, that plan B doesn't sound too good. A bit bleak, but that's why we want to ask our couples here with one final statement. Again, you've got 90 seconds to respond to this. Singapore should spend less on procreation incentives and more on a future with less babies.
I think yes. I think I agree with that statement. So I think we've been saying that I think lower fertility rates. I think that's just been a trend in developed nations. People have changing preferences. People are getting married later, right? Has been mentioned. So I think we should focus maybe more on maybe our demographic reality, and then also as a nation have conversations about what kind of country we want to be. Given that.
Yeah, and I think jumping off that point, I think it's also important to recognize that, these things are not binary, right? Like we can have both. And also, ultimately, a lot of these procreation incentives about having more babies, these are things that, when you talk about flexible work arrangements, better work-life balance, right? Alternative pathways to success, these are things that don't just benefit married couples with kids, right? They benefit everybody, right? They make Singapore a better Singapore to live in. And ultimately, that's what we want, right? We want a Singapore that current Singaporeans feel very happy to bring future Singaporeans into.
Okay, thank you. And very quickly.
Sure. I think procreation incentives have its merits. I think it's very welcome. I'm sure many people were applauding yesterday. And I personally, I'm not so sure whether we should be dwelling on a hypothetical future, which, like the panelists mentioned, we're not even sure if they will contribute to the TFR or not. But what I feel should be the focus is if someone even has a fraction of a seed in their heart of wanting a kid, wanting a family, then we pave that way for them. We remove as many hurdles as possible.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off because we have run out of time. But a good point. I like that. If you pave the seed, then maybe there's some hope there. Diana, back to you.
I think, Steve, I might actually have a plan C. Minister, I want to ask you, do you think that if the situation gets really dire, might Singapore be prepared to de-link parenthood from marriage?
Diana, I want to say that, we are, I don't want to end on a bleak note. I actually loved what the couple said earlier. They actually gave hope. They said that we should do and try everything, and I think that's what the government is trying to do. We're looking at marriage within a family. We're trying to support all that we can do, support parents, provide right nudges to the employers. And at the same time, all our packages is actually very child-centric. So at the end of the day, we value each Singapore citizen child, and we are going to support them regardless of their birth order, regardless of their parents' status. And I think that is going to be effort that we'll continue to review over time so that we provide assurance to Singaporeans, and hopefully we'll see better outcomes in the next interview you have, maybe in a few years down the road.
I take it that the answer is a no for now, okay? Now, there was one other important announcement that was made during the rally, and that is social media restrictions. After the break, these teens, there you go, they are coming in. These teens have lots to say about it. And how will Minister Josephine Teo convince them? Hello again. Now, earlier we looked at how the government wants people to have more children. Here's something else they want changed: for teens to spend less time on social media. And that's what we're going to be discussing: social media restrictions. Over with Steve, we have 7 teenagers, and we will hear from them shortly. Minister, let's start with you. At the rally, the Prime Minister says that the priority is to make social media safer by design. What exactly is Singapore asking the social media companies to do?
What we're really looking at now is safety from the point of view of mental health and well-being. And some time ago, there was a report that was released by an expert panel that was convened by the Ministry of Health, and they had identified a few key elements of what they think social media needs to be for younger people. Number one, they are not proposing that there be no access. They think that it is a question of how we try and adjust the features so that the problems of excessive use or inappropriate contact through social media or...
What kind of features are we asking them to adjust?
So, for example, I think the expert panel recommended, looking at things like autoplay. And I think there was also one very important dimension that the expert panel highlighted, which is that you do need a whole-of-society approach. Restrictions are just one part of it. And you also need to think of ways to help teens cultivate healthy digital habits. So it's a more holistic way of thinking rather than, banning social media per se. Having said that, I think if the features can't be adjusted, then we have to seriously ask whether that particular platform continues to be able to access the teens in Singapore.
What do you mean the features cannot be adjusted?
Well, it may not be a case of them, being impossible to adjust from a technical standpoint. It could be that the platform decides that they don't want to do it, and it's a choice that they certainly can make. But then equally, we'll have to make a choice on behalf of society whether they continue to be accessible to teens in Singapore. So that's the conversation that we're having.
So when you say that the platform decides that they do not want to adjust the features, that will mean that they are opting to not serve the Singapore market.
It is
because they know
entirely
that the
possible.
government has said that we will make a move.
Yeah.
I mean, the government will say we will pull the plug.
Well, if you look at global companies and the kind of products that they offer, it is not uncommon at all that they have to make adjustments to meet local requirements. This is quite standard across many different kinds of products. And in terms of social media use, I think we've also asked for adjustments that don't necessarily mean a complete redesign of their product. And some of the things that we are discussing are also not unique to Singapore. For example, thinking about how to adjust autoplay. The UK has also asked for it. So in other words, what we're saying is that these are concerns not expressed only by Singapore users.
Yes.
These are concerns expressed elsewhere in the world.
So we are really adding to the global voices, the growing global voices, if you like. Are we likely to get a yes or no?
The global voice, there are differences. There is a global voice that says ban. There is a global voice that says we're not really looking for bans, we're really looking for adjustment to the features.
I suppose my question is, how confident are we that we will get what we want?
Well, we will know in due course.
Okay, let's go over to you, Steve. What do the teenagers have to say?
Exactly. We do need to hear from the young people themselves. So I have them with me here. They're between the ages of 14 and 16. So I'm going to present a few statements to them. You guys are going to tell me whether you agree or disagree. Okay, ready for the first one? Youth mental health issues are due to social media. How many of you agree or disagree with that? 1, 2, 3. Oh, everyone's got a thumbs down except for Sherry, thumbs up, okay. So let me ask Yong Kiat. Yeah, why do you feel this way?
Personally, I find that youth mental health is actually a societal issue that is quite multifaceted. It has many factors that range from academic stress in our Singaporean context to possible family dynamics at home. Just solely blaming social media as the root cause of these issues, I find that it is quite unjust, as we cannot scapegoat it for a multifaceted social issue.
Interesting. Alexandria, you also disagreed, right?
Yes.
Share your thoughts with us.
I feel that way as well, that social media isn't the root cause, it's a contributing factor. And from my own personal experience, I myself have faced cyberbullying, which is also a contributing factor from social media, right? But I think, as Yong Kiat said, in Singapore, I face a lot of pressure, like academic pressure, when it comes to my studies, because in Singapore, we value education a lot.
And I think because of that, from peer pressure, family pressure, and even the pressure that I get online from people's expectations of me doing well, it has affected me severely. I'd say more than what social media has contributed to my mental health.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Diana?
So, Ben, they are saying that the contribution to mental health is not really just social media, but other issues like academics, for example. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean,
So are we really trying to fix the wrong problem?
well, I think it's very simplistic to reduce, the whole mental health crisis into, pinning the blame on social media. I know, as I think Yongkiat very rightly pointed out, this is a multifaceted issue. To put social media as a scapegoat is a very reductionist view to look at. I think Minister talked about the MOH expert panel. I think the research does track, right, that there is correlation, not necessarily causation. So I think it's too quick for us to jump to the conclusion to say that social media use has directly caused many of these mental health issues. There are other factors like the young people I've rightly pointed out, and I don't think it's about solving the wrong problem. Problematic social media use coupled with all these other factors can be mutually reinforcing. So as many factors that we can tackle, we would want to tackle them. As much as we can reduce the risk of mental health issues to young people, we would want to try and do as much as we can. In this case, social media use is something that we can actively tackle and actively work on. I don't think we should let it slide.
Fair enough. So I want to ask the both of you, why should the government solve a problem that some people say ultimately begins at home? Minister.
Well, if you ask parents, I think they have expressed a very strong view that they think that the government needs to provide a system of support to help them navigate this world of digital parenting. It's a set of skills that an earlier generation of parents did not need. And so I think we are stepping up our efforts to help them understand what their children and what their youth experience as part of their growing up. That's just one part of it. I think it is also an expression of, what kinds of activities we think constitutes more healthy engagements. Referring back to what Ben had said earlier, the MOH expert panel did point out that there is a difference between use of social media versus problematic use. Problematic use perhaps does not concern every single teen user, but there are enough of them who are affected. I think the figure that they quoted was 1 in 6 themselves declared, those who are aged between 10 to 24, that they have problematic use, meaning that they find themselves feeling a certain compulsive sense of having to go back to social media. They find themselves unable to stop. I think it is these kinds of instances, and it may not be amongst the 7 teens who are with us today. They are very well spoken, and I'm so glad that they express a strong view that it is a multifaceted problem. But like Alexandra said, social media may only be a contributing factor. The question is, can we provide a stronger sense of support to parents and to the teens who find that gaining more age-appropriate experiences whilst they are becoming more equipped to deal with social media, could that be part of their path forward?
So what I'm hearing is that the government needs to get involved in a way because parents is unprecedented. And parents may not be able to deal with this level of complexity, if you like. Well, the kids the teenagers are very well spoken indeed. Steve, let's hear from them again.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with screen time, right? We always talk about that. So this is the question for all of you. I'm going to ask you, would you accept a daily time limit on social media? Don't need to tell me agree or disagree. Just actually, would you accept a daily time limit on social media? Anybody would not accept? No? Okay. So you think we should have unlimited time?
I'm not saying that we should have unlimited time on social media, but I think that if we overly regulate our children's use of social media, what happens when they grow up? What happens when they turn 18 and the parents no longer have this sort of jurisdiction to manage their social media usage? Then I would say that this is more of delaying the problem more than actually solving the problem of addiction and cyberbullying.
So what do you think is a good daily time limit? Give me a number.
I think 2 to 3 hours is quite sufficient for most people.
Anybody disagree? Anybody? Sherry, how long?
So for me, I do agree. I do think that 2 to 3 hours is a good time
2 to
limit.
3. Deepika, how long?
I would say 4 to 5 hours.
4 to 5. Sherry.
I would say 2 to 3.
2 to 3?
3 to 4.
Okay. And Alessandra?
2 hours a day.
Steve, you should have seen our reactions when they said 4 to 5 hours. Okay, Minister.
I heard 45 hours.
Do you want to say something to them?
I'm very curious from our teens, when you say 2 to 3 hours or 3 to 4 hours, whatever the number may be, do you mean per platform every 24 hours or do you mean, in total?
I think in total, right? You guys, anybody mean per platform? Because that'll be a lot of time. Yeah, in total.
In total. Okay, that's good to know.
So that's okay?
Is there a number, Minister, is there a number that you think is acceptable? I mean, just now they tikam, everyone was saying different number. Is there a magic number for you?
That's why we are here to listen to the teens. We want to know what's the right number for them.
Okay. Okay, well, let's come back here. Come over back to this side. Let me ask them another question, because besides screen time, there's always a question of trust. So this next statement, adults should trust that their teens know how to manage their social media usage. Yes?
Whoa.
Oh, of course, everybody's saying, come on, parents, trust us. We know what we are doing,
I mean,
no surprise there. What do you guys think?
Okay, no, can you say that again?
I said that when I was 16 too.
But what would you say now?
Actually,
I know your kids are way above 16.
I know, but actually I do agree with the teens. I think it depends on whether there is a foundation of trust between the parent and the child. And you don't build that foundation overnight. You don't gain that trust, suddenly when a child, moves from 15 to 16, you build it up over the years. And you need to have a sense of how the child is thinking about the world, how, as they approach their teenage years, how they understand issues. And the levels of maturity differs across, individuals. No two kids are alike. And so I actually think that from all of our engagements, when we were thinking about what was the right ways of dealing with social media, giving parents agency and actually helping them to build a strong relationship with their children actually goes to the heart of it. And we can't just think about interventions, through the platforms. We really do need to think about building the scaffolding that will enable the parents and the child to help develop a set of habits that will enable them to do well in this digital world. I think there was a comment being made by one of the speakers earlier, which I agreed with. You don't suddenly expect someone who has zero exposure to social media and then on the day that they turn 16, suddenly they know how to navigate it. In fact, our preferred approach is that, from the time that you have access, slowly build it up. It's a little bit like training wheels. You want your children to be able to cycle, but you don't put them on a cycle, on the expressway from day one, right? Yeah, you first buy them a little bicycle, that has actually more like a tricycle. You put them in helmets and you make sure that they have all their, knee guards and their elbow guards. And then slowly you will remove these.
Yep,
and you reach a point, you can even remove the training wheels. That's what we're trying to do.
So Ben, you work with kids on a daily basis, with young people. What will happen if adults trust teenagers and let them manage their own social media?
Well, actually, in speaking to young people across Singapore, I think what we found was that the trust is a very complex word. It's a very complex word. Trust does not mean leave me to my own devices and let me be. There's a difference between checking on a young person and checking in with a young person. When you check on a young person, there is no trust there, right? You are trying to intrusively ascertain what they are doing. When you're checking in with someone, you give them agency, you give them autonomy, you give them the freedom to go and explore, within the right boundaries, what they want to learn. But you check in with them to understand, are you doing okay? right? Are you doing well? And what's surprising is that a lot of young people that we spoke to actually welcome parental support. They actually prefer and they hope for parents to be their first port of call. And parents are not the only stakeholders that young people are thinking about. There is strong consensus across the young people that we spoke to that government should play a part. They want, see that there is a difference between a unilateral total blanket ban, right, an arbitrary ban at 16 years old, versus staggered regulations and staggered restrictions. Young people are in favor of regulations. They recognize the harm.
Let's hear it from the teenagers with you, Steve. What happens if there are social media restrictions?
Because, Minister, we got all the sensible youths here tonight. Yeah, you know, that's why they're here in this room.
They're all over Singapore, Steve.
A percentage of them. Okay, but guys, I want to put this statement to you because we're talking about trust. So this is one question that is kind of in that line. I will find a way to bypass social media restrictions. Oh, how many of you would do that?
Just now that you said.
Yeah? Oh, so, okay. 3 of you says you will find a way to bypass it. Deepika, how so? Whoa.
So I think I would find a way to bypass it because I personally use social media a lot. I'm a consumer of social media. However, I do feel that social media, there's just more than one regulated use for it. For example, nowadays we use social media for schools because we have so much self-regulated learning because we have PLDs to bring to schools every day. And I think that when some things becomes blocked on our PLD, we just like, I don't know, slither around and try and find a way because we're just so reliant on social media every day. And I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think that there are some great things on social media. But I also think that social media is a way for us to connect with other youths our age who are also as sensible as us.
Diane?
Yes, coming back to me for one final question for everyone. So the teenagers, we'll start with you first, okay? So here's my question. Who should decide what is safe for a teenager to see online? 4 choices: teenager, parent, platform, government. Steve, let's start with the teenagers.
We're going to go around the room. Just give me one word, okay? Either teenager, parent, platform, or government. Sherry, you go first.
Parent.
Teenagers.
Teenager.
Parent.
Teenager.
Platform.
Teenager.
Okay, I wasn't able to keep track of who said exactly what. Were you able to do that, Diana?
I've only got 6 out of 7 ticks, though. So, but suffice to say that I did not hear the word government.
Oh.
So, Minister, what are we doing with the social media restrictions? I didn't hear government at all.
Well, the government doesn't decide what you see. However, to protect society, there are certain kinds of egregious content, including cyberbullying content, including content that cause harms, and the victims report. And we have a mechanism to help these victims get such kinds of content removed. The government does not remove content except in very, very limited circumstances. I think we remember during COVID, there was a particular occasion where there was a Bible and there was a Quran that was shown, and then all it said was, when you run out of toilet paper. Those are the very limited instances where the government might intervene. But I wanted to come back to this idea of who should decide. It's a really good question. I think we are not trying to decide on anyone's behalf. The government is not trying to do that. What the government is trying to do is to build a way that will enable teenagers to have age-appropriate experiences. We're not saying they should have zero experience. We're not taking necessarily the same approach that some other countries have decided to do, which have a blanket ban for users below a certain age. We're really looking at giving them child-safe access and giving them the opportunity to build maturity to the time where they can have full access, like all adults do.
Ben, quick one. Which one would you pick?
I would say platforms, but I have a reason for that. And I think among the young people, only one of them chose platforms as well. Give me 10 seconds, I'll tie it all together. Platforms are the environmental nexus in which all of these happen. They are where young people are at, they are where the content is surfaced, they are where it is streamed, they are where it's consumed. But platforms alone cannot determine this by themselves. As Minister has said, I don't think government is going to the extent of controlling what information and what content young people see online as well.
Minister, what is your choice out of the 4 categories?
I would say between the parents and the teenagers. And the reason why I don't think it's just parents alone, because I have met so many parents who are very aware that their children differ in their levels of maturity. And they would like to actually involve their teenagers in deciding what is the appropriate use of social media. I find that very encouraging.
Yeah, I totally hear you. It is, to use a cliche, it is a partnership, and parents can do this together with their children for a better outcome. Thank you. That's all the time we have for discussion tonight. Enjoy your social media, young people out there, and parents, remember, check in on the kids. Don't check on them. Thank you and good night.